What is up, everybody? This is the PB and Gainz podcast, episode 4. We sit down with Nicole Fennell, registered dietitian of Choose Food Wisely. We talk all about her story, battling some common myths that come up with food, how to handle deficiencies, like the most common deficiencies that most people will have, and then basically how to live your best life through food. So take a listen. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks. Today's quote is "What has been lost is the essence of what great health really is and how to get it" by Kevin Gianni of Kale and Coffee.
Here we go.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time.
All right, what is up, everybody? This is Ben from the PB and Gainz podcast. Today we are sitting down with Nicole Fennell, David's wife. I should say it's more of like David is Nicole's husband, because that's what goes by here.
He took my last name.
Dang, that's a bold way to start a podcast.
Called out.
All right, we'll try that. Yeah, this is Ben sitting here with Derek and David of the PB and Gainz podcast, and also with Nicole Fennell, who is David's last name. That made no sense. But anyways, she's a registered dietitian from Choose Food Wisely. We do a ton of work with her here at Avenue, and she's done a great job with educating her clients, getting them set up with different types of testing, and just helping them basically change their lives. So we're going to let her chat today. We'll let her introduce herself. We'll start off pretty much with like her story, and I'll let you go.
Okay, I'm really excited to be here, and as Ben said, I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I like to think of myself as being a little bit different, and I'll kind of tell you my background story and kind of how I got to where I wanted to be, which is on this path. So I've always kind of had a passion for nutrition. I grew up in South Texas, and I pretty much have like Tex-Mex flowing through my veins. So I grew up eating a lot of very unhealthy food, but I was always the little kid who felt like I needed a salad or needed something a little bit healthier. So anyway, long story short, I pursued nutrition, and I got my bachelor's and master's in nutrition and became a registered dietitian. And I did what most dietitians do after their internship and boards. I worked in a hospital for quite a few years, and I just got kind of disheartened by the whole conventional medicine model, so I ended up leaving that for a little bit. But the reason I just got so discouraged is because I got all this education on the healing powers of food, but I wasn't able to really put that into practice. I spent a lot of my days calculating tube feedings and counseling people who had diabetes and telling them that their, Cheerios and skim milk and chocolate milk at breakfast were healthy, and their pasta lunch and Diet Coke were healthy for them because they were under 75 grams of carbs. And in the back of my mind, I knew that was wrong. But again, working in the conventional medicine world, that's kind of what I had to do. So fast forward a few years of doing that, and my awesome husband proposed to me, and I was planning. That's a good choice. And at the time, we were really heavy into marathon running and doing triathlons and whatnot, and I decided I really wanted to lose weight for my wedding, so I went on a vegan diet for about a year or so, and it wasn't until around the time after we got married, and I was, it was a couple years ago, so a little bit younger than I am now, and I just started realizing that I have no energy whatsoever. I have horrible brain fog. I just don't feel like I'm the then 25, 26-year-old that I should be. I wasn't vibrant. I would walk into a room and kind of forget things that were happening. And so I went to my doctor and kind of got a myriad of tests. And some of the tests that she did were more functional medicine testing and kind of preventative medicine testing. So micronutrient tests and a lot of thyroid tests and just hormonal panels. Anyway, so long story short, I came back that I was pre-diabetic and had a bunch of issues with my thyroid and autoimmune conditions and a lot of nutritional deficiencies. And as a dietitian, this kind of really struck a chord with me because I'm a dietitian and I thought I was healthy and I thought I was doing the right thing by following a vegan diet and running 3 hours every day and, maybe probably under eating too much. So anyway, that kind of prompted me to really have a change of pace and a change of lifestyle. And I was thinking, heck, if my doctor knows all this stuff about nutrients and how nutrients are really the foundation of our bodily processes, why don't I know about this? And what can I do to incorporate this into my practice? So from there, like I said, I just kind of had a complete lifestyle change. Started working out a lot less and doing kind of more like 30-minute training and weightlifting and incorporating meat back into my diet and a lot of fat back into my diet, which back then as a bride, eating fat was probably like the scariest thing I could have done. So yeah, that's kind of my backstory, how I got here.
David, is that true?
Yes, it is. And definitely the vegan part of her diet or that year was definitely it was difficult. We were basically preparing almost 2 meals. And really, whenever she started eating meat back in her diet, or putting meat back in her diet, really, I think that saved our marriage.
I'm surprised he still married me after I was vegan before our wedding.
It was difficult.
Even at our wedding, we had delicious fillets and really great meals at Hotel Icon. But I got a plate of sides because I was vegan, so I had a plate of spinach and potatoes at my wedding because I thought I was doing the right thing by eating this vegan diet. So.
I like to remind her that the steaks were very delicious. She missed out on that part.
Paid for a lot of meat. Didn't get to have any of it.
Yeah.
That's sad. No, that's what a lot of people seem to do. It's like they go with whatever it feels right. I mean, like the whole vegan thing in theory sounds great. You get to eat a lot of vegetables. You get to save the environment. You get to save your intestines because red meat makes your intestines go bad and it'll kill you tomorrow. So that whole path, I think, is a lot of people do it. And then especially from the dietitian standpoint, I mean, seeing that you had those deficiencies and had to come back from that, I can guarantee there's a ton of people, probably myself included, that are deficient in a number of things. Derek has a plethora, that's a good word, of protein in his system, but probably no greens.
I mean, you said no chocolate milk for breakfast. I mean, what am I supposed to have now? No, but
I mean, you're doing Ovaltine, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really, I guess, say too much about the whole vegan diet because I've never really experimented with anyone doing it.
You don't need to do it.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Enough people have tried it out for you.
Yeah, but I mean, I personally, I was the guy that, had the junk breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, ate out a lot at a lot of fast food places. I had the Eggo waffles for breakfast. I had the bagels with cream. I had the, Lucky Charms cereal, whatever.
That's gross.
I think there's Eggos now with protein.
There are.
Does that make it better?
I mean, yeah, you can make your own waffles.
Protein Cheerios?
Pancake, protein pancakes, protein waffles, whatever. But yeah, I was definitely that guy that loved their chocolate milk in the morning to start off my day.
Well, your life is a lie. That's what we've established in the first few minutes here. Derek's childhood was a failure with Cheerios.
But unfortunately, so speaking of the Cheerios, what's frustrating as a dietitian is that we got educated that it's whole grains and every serving has so many carbohydrates. So as long as you're within this carbohydrate limit, that's totally okay. And even the Lucky Charms, they have 100% of your calcium, and you're adding skim milk, so you should be good to go. And that's what made me really, really mad is because that's not the way that we're supposed to be eating.
They have vitamins and minerals too. I know they advertise that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Infused with. I'm glad you said that about it's you were told whole grains. You told your patients whole grains, and so seeing that you kind of gone a different route than most dietitians do. I mean, if you have a conversation today, I know with some dietitians I've talked with in the past, if I say things about fat, raw milk, certain things, it's all of a sudden an argument, right off the bat. I'm wrong because I have fat, that'll kill me. Saturated fat's the devil, that whole thing. So obviously your message is different than what most people are going to say. You're contrarian.
Yeah, that's a good word too. So I don't know. I feel like if anybody takes a step back and they look back 100, 1,000 years, whatever it may be, nobody can argue with the fact that we're eating so many things that we're not supposed to be eating. I don't think anybody could win that argument. I feel like I do really go against the grain, and there are a lot of really great dietitians out against the grain.
Yeah. Well done. That's it.
That was an accident.
I would have said it was on purpose. And
I have a script here, so I wouldn't say that. There are a really great niche of dietitians and health practitioners that do kind of follow more of an ancestral approach. But then again, there are a couple people who just maybe are taking things for face value and things that they may have learned based off of, government regulations, and that they kind of just preach the food guide pyramid, which, I mean, as more and more research is coming out, just isn't the way that we're supposed to be eating. And there really are, and this is a whole other podcast, but there really are ulterior motives to the food guide pyramid, or whatever it's called now.
We need more ideas for podcasts, so thanks.
Yeah. Actually, there's a whole book, Death by Food Pyramid by Denise Minger. So if you have not read that, I would suggest going and at least Googling it, because I know on her blog she's got the tidbits of it and kind of preaches that same message. So you talk about like that ancestral health, ancestral eating. I know with here we do the real food movement, so kind of transitioning that to like, would you say yours is more of that real food approach, less processed type?
Yeah, definitely real food, and you know, like even things like paleo and ancestral, like they kind of have a stigma to them, and so I really use those terms loosely. But just like I said, you can't argue with what humans were eating for a really long time. It wasn't until the last 50 or 100 years or so that we started getting all of this processed food into our bodies. And that's really when we started seeing the rise in all these diseases that are completely unavoidable. So yeah, you can have the genetic predisposition, which is kind of like the loaded gun, but whether or not you pull the trigger really depends on your lifestyle factors. So, you know, if you have a predisposition to diabetes, you can do everything in your power to eat the right kinds of foods and get the appropriate amount of sleep and exercise the appropriate way, and you can really reduce your risk of developing something like diabetes.
Yeah, I saw today an article talking about there's a 3-year-old diagnosed with type 2. And they're talking about it like being it's 3-year-old, 3-month-old. I should probably fact check that. But basically saying like she is probably one of the youngest people to contract a type 2 diabetes, and really saying like that's kind of the state of where we're at right now. It's pretty sad state of affairs. But I mean, there are people like yourself who are trying to change that whole perception of what food is and what food can do for your body. And so yeah, it's comforting to know there's people like that, but we're still having to fight that uphill battle against Derek's Ovaltine.
I know that, and they had to change the name of type 2 diabetes. It used to be adult onset, and now it's type 2 just because kids are getting
so,
it.
I mean, yeah, and so type 1, of course, is more like the autoimmune, you know, like sometimes you get it and you can have had the healthiest lifestyle and you contract type 1 diabetes, but type 2 is the one that can really be preventable. And like David said, like, it's just kind of sad that the name has had to change, and that 3-year-olds who should be running around and playing and, you know, not having to take insulin injections every day.
It should have been a big red flag when they had to change the name. Like, really, that should have been, hey, something's not right here.
Yeah, like y'all said, it's like there's so much money and there's so many ulterior motives out there that they said that's like 15 more podcasts that we could really get into. But I mean, there's a lot going on, and really it comes down to like educating ourselves and making sure we're going to quality people for that information. So like on that note, transitioning into like myths. I mean, we hear all the time here at the gym, just conversations and fears people have about, you know, do I eat carbs before bed? Do I not eat carbs at all? Do I have a lot of fat? Do I fast? Do I juice? All these things. What are, like, say, top 2 myths that you would like to dispel here today?
Probably the one that I talk to all of my clients about is the myth that you have to avoid fat and that fat will make you fat. I'll refrain from getting a little bit too nerdy here because I tend to do that, but that's really not the case. We need quite a bit of fat in our diets, you know, not only for transporting fat-soluble vitamins, but joint lubrication. Our brain is made up of mostly fat. Hormones are made up of mostly fat. The fortress around our cells that protects our cells from dying off is made up of fat. So we really need a lot. And so, you know, getting into the types of fats, again, that could be a whole other podcast, but just thinking back to what people were normally eating. So if they were eating fatty vegetables, that's, you know, or fatty fruits like avocados and coconuts, but they were also just, you know, if they had a cow on their land, they were eating or drinking the full fat dairy, or they were eating fatty cuts of meats and making broths from the bones that still had meat and marrow in them, and they were getting fat that way. And that's really what we need to be incorporating more of. It's just a lot of very good quality fat, which is scary because, you know, for decades people have been told to not have fat in their diet, and you're going to have a heart attack on the spot if you eat, you know, a ribeye. But they're really finding that's not the case.
Yeah,
I like the high fat diet. I won't disagree with that at all. I mean, I'm not in a low carb diet at all. Quite the opposite. I like my high
protein.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen his rounded scoops. I've seen that of protein.
Yeah. So do you think 2 scoops of protein is good enough? Like, for me, getting 2 instead of 1. It's 1 scoop recommended, but I use 2 scoops of protein.
Will he die?
Just to get enough. I just got to make sure I'm getting enough protein in my system. So.
Well, I feel like if you're eating a well-rounded meal, you probably don't need all of that extra protein powder, and especially like the bright blue raspberry protein powder. Because I don't know that those are necessarily
Pre-workout,
natural.
That's
how he pushes
pre-workout,
Raptors
yeah.
around.
But you know, the thing with like isolates like that, so like just a concentrated whey protein, is that that's been really chemically processed. And yeah, it's convenient and it's nice that you can like take that on the go. But if you think like if you just had like a great piece of grass-fed beef after your workout, not only are you getting the protein, which is, yeah, everybody knows we need protein to build muscle, but you also need all those vitamins and minerals and all the different fats and all the different vibrancy that's in a cut of meat. And it doesn't even have to be beef. It can be like anything. It can be chicken, turkey, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start saving a little more money on my protein bags.
I'll take a bag next time. Yeah, thanks.
I accidentally took Ben's.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, there's just a time and a place for protein powders, and I feel like as a
not 4 times a day.
probably not.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks.
I mean, you were just pushing a truck in the parking lot, so maybe you could use 4 scoops of protein powder, but
Yeah, that was probably not the best idea to push trucks right before a podcast in a small room.
Yeah, it's sweaty in here.
Yeah.
It's bad. But since we're on protein, because there will be people that will go and take it. Like I know we'll do it, and people who are on the go who are going to use that excuse of, I can't sit there and munch on a steak while I'm in my car. I mean, you could.
Why not?
Yeah, you could.
I'll see people do it.
Yeah, they'll eat pieces of pizza in the car, but they won't have a steak.
I've seen a bowl of cereal in the car,
Yes.
so
My wife is guilty of that. But yeah, I think it's like there are going to be the people that do a protein powder, but I think there's also that other myth that like your kidneys will shut down in a blaze of glory and your system will go into renal failure if you do have protein. So dispelling that myth, I guess.
yeah, so in terms of that, what they've really found is that if you have existing kidney issues, then that's probably not a good idea. The issue comes into hand with the protein in terms of like straight protein powders. Kind of like it's really hard to overdose on vitamins unless you're taking like a lot of vitamin supplements. So if you're eating protein from food, you're going to be fuller a lot faster than you are going to be overdosing on protein. But if you are doing a ton of protein powders throughout the day, that could put you at more of a risk of like developing kidney stones and things like that. So you're not going to end up on dialysis or anything if you're drinking a protein powder shake every day. But of course, like I'm a Real Food fan first. It's a lot of alliteration. So yeah, like here and there as a supplement to your diet. That's why they're called protein supplements, because they supplement your diet. They should be completely fine as long as you're getting a good quality protein powder.
I think that's a good question too. What? I mean, I know we're kind of getting
A rabbit hole.
Yeah, deeper and deeper. But I mean, the people who are probably going to listen to this are going to be like, all right, I'm taking a protein. And I know we get asked all the time. I'm sure you do. Like, all right, is it pea protein, hemp protein, dairy? I'm trying to avoid dairy, but whey is there. Is it a whey isolate? What recommendations or what things would you have somebody look out for a protein?
So in terms of like an animal protein powder, kind of the same things that you would keep in mind when you're grocery shopping for beef or whatever protein, making sure that it was raised in its natural environment. So of course you want it to be grass-fed if possible. Really looking at the ingredients more so than the nutrition facts itself. Like I know we all want to micromanage our nutrition and get exactly so many grams of protein. But anyway, so yeah, looking at the ingredients and making sure that you really can recognize everything that's in the ingredient list. So grass-fed, when it comes to whey protein, like a non-denatured whey protein, meaning that it's like more, again, I'm going to try not to get nerdy, more or less adulterated than like a completely denatured protein powder. And then if you're looking for a non-dairy source, yeah, there are like pea proteins and hemp proteins, and those are fine. And of course, they're not going to have the same quantity and probably quality of a whey protein. But again, just looking at the ingredients and making sure that there's not just a bunch of added stuff, and that hopefully if they can have organic ingredients, that would be better too.
So we're good.
So yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
My bag is full of quality protein.
I think we all have the same bag, so I
don't have the same bag.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
David and I, we're good.
Everybody else does.
We're good.
Yeah. Enjoy it. So yeah, that's kind of a quick. I know we got real deep on the protein aspect, and I know it's like there's going to be so many people that focus on protein per se, but obviously, like you mentioned earlier, fat is a big deal. And then getting into carbs, because that's going to be the following question. If I'm having this protein, what do I do for carbs? What do you tell people?
So in terms of carbohydrates, like right now, the low-carb diet is super popular, and people are getting great results off of it because it's like a quick weight loss technique. But in the long run, again, so if you're looking back on how people ate a long time ago, they were eating starchy vegetables and roots and tubers and things like that. So I usually recommend to people doing more starchy vegetables. So things like sweet potatoes and even white potatoes have their place in your diet. Plantains, turnips, rutabaga, cassava. Just a whole different array of starchy vegetables are really important. So there's kind of a bell curve when it comes to carbohydrates. So of course, having way too many can lead to blood glucose issues and things like
diabetes.
Diabetes. But then on the other hand, having too low of carbohydrates can actually put your body into kind of a sort of insulin resistance, which kind of mimics type 2 diabetes, which we don't want that either. So if we're already, not eating carbohydrates and then we have issues with our insulin sensitivity, then that's kind of mimicking diabetes, and so we're ending up in the same place. So incorporating some carbohydrates, I like to incorporate them at maybe a little bit at breakfast and then at lunch and dinner, which studies are showing that having a little bit of carbohydrate at dinner really helps you to have better sleep. It helps get the tryptophan, again, I'm getting kind of nerdy, but gets it into the cell better, and tryptophan, of course, is that amino acid that we get from turkey.
It's not an ice cream?
No.
I'm out then. It's a bad idea.
But yeah, having some carbohydrates throughout the day, and after working out, your insulin sensitivity is better. So if you work out and you have maybe a protein shake that has a little bit of carbohydrate and a little bit of fat in it, would be a good option.
So maybe days that you're more active to get some more carbohydrates.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. And that doesn't mean that on the days off you do no carbs. I'm a fan of kind of everything in moderation, so having a little bit at each meal is a good idea. So
David, watch those carbs today. You didn't really work out today.
Yeah, you didn't get to push
the truck a few times. Twice.
As David is eating stir fry right in front of us. So
yeah, that's with none for us. That's the big problem.
But I think that's a good idea because he is, he just worked out, he has more insulin sensitivity, and he's eating the stir fry that we made last night that has some jasmine rice in it. And so, it's a good opportunity that, even though multitasking while eating probably isn't the best idea, he's not leaning on that protein powder. He made the effort to bring his lunch and eat it, and
she's just slamming the rest of us that are in here. David did great. You guys suck.
I'm opening your eyes here. Good health is totally attainable. You just have to be conscious about it.
Guess I won't be taking my protein shake out.
Everybody's gonna hide what they eat now. Like crap.
Eric is gonna curse my name after this.
If he can reach it. So obviously David's the good person in this group. But yeah, like she just said, making that choice and really investing in time to cook. That way you can actually bring it, and then you don't have to worry about all the other crap. Like, I didn't bring anything. I got a snack on a bar or some protein. When you can really just have made the better choice, like she just mentioned, and bring your lunch like David because he's a jerk.
We all want to be like David.
He's up 16 pounds.
Have gained some weight.
He is, the epitome of Gainz.
Gainz trained.
Yeah, so after I had my baby, David loses all this weight, and I'm just glaring at him.
Not enough carbs.
Stress.
Yeah, stress.
Yeah, no, this was not a desired weight loss. This was not the healthiest weight loss.
Don't recommend getting people pregnant and then stressing about it. Not saying that was that came out wrong. Moving on to our next topic.
Yeah,
I think cholesterol.
Cholesterol is terrible for you. We'll talk about deficiencies, like my sense of humor at this moment. It's like looking at, you did a class for us that really a lot of people loved, and a lot of people really liked the information and talking about some major deficiencies that people have. So, of course, immediately they're going to go to, if you say something like magnesium, they're going to be sweet, I'm going to go buy magnesium. Mm-hmm. But since what we're talking about is that real food approach, what are some 3 major deficiencies people might have, and then just foods that you can eat on a normal, regular basis that can help prevent that? or fight it, I should say?
So I should preface this. There's always a time and a place for a supplement, and
Sure.
usually when I do like the nutrient testing that Ben talked about, of course, like food is a foundation, but a lot of times I'll incorporate some sort of supplement just because sometimes you just can't eat enough of the food, and there is a supply and demand issue. Anyway, so going back to the food, probably the most common deficiencies I see, of course, are vitamin D, pretty much across the board. And so vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin, but it's sunshine hormone that we get from the sunshine. And it's really not found in a ton of foods. And so you can get like the vegetable vitamin D, which comes in things like mushrooms. But then things like canned salmon that has the bones in it, which sounds really gross. But if you make like... And it looks really gross too, but we
Taking all the bones out?
No, you leave the bones in.
I don't.
No, you leave the bones in.
Once again.
I don't touch that period, so.
Yeah, you. Sorry, salmon bones are in.
We make these really great salmon cakes that are great to make in bulk and freeze, and we always have them on hand. But the bones are so soft that you don't even taste, or like, unless you're very sensitive, but you don't even feel them when you're eating them. And that's a really great source of calcium and vitamin D. So fatty fish in general. Another really common deficiency is vitamin A. And so vitamin A is another one of those things that's kind of hard to be found in food. So yeah, we can get beta carotene, which is the precursor to vitamin A, in pumpkin and squashes and butternut squash and things like that. But probably the richest source of vitamin A are things like liver and egg yolks. So egg yolks, I think everybody loves egg yolks. I don't know of any person who would
vegans
argue. Yeah, I guess vegans don't like egg yolks. Liver is one of those things that, I gave it an honest try, and I really have a hard time stomaching it. So I actually took a page from Ben's book, and we made liver pills that we keep in the freezer, and I just take a couple every day. And you want to aim for like a 1/4 pound a week of organ meats, which that would be really hard for me if I wasn't just taking the liver pills every day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that appeals to everybody, but that's
they're pretty easy to make. They're gross after a while when it starts getting real gummy. But other than that, you just take liver, like a good grass-fed beef liver, and or you can do pork, I guess. It doesn't really matter. But you just cut it up. It's like pill-like form, and then put it on a cookie tray, freeze it, and then you have a bunch of little pills. You can just pick them off or throw them in another container in the freezer. And
How long did you freeze it for?
like 2 weeks.
And it's good after that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have to be careful about not letting it thaw. So like storing
Yeah.
it in the back of the freezer, not in the freezer door. It's a good idea. I would say those are probably, let's see, B12 is a very common deficiency that I see in meat eaters and non-meat eaters alike. And a lot of times that's more so telling me that there's kind of like a lot of stress going on in their lives. But again, B12 is only found in animal products. You can buy a vegan B12 supplement, but again, those are usually kind of made up in a lab and very synthetic. So if you are following a vegan diet, just be very conscious of your B12 status.
Or stop.
It can be done. You have to be very... If you're adopting that kind of lifestyle where you're basically eliminating an entire macronutrient, which is protein, you have to be really diligent about supplementing because, we're omnivores for a reason, and we need to get this like vast array of nutrients that we are supposed to get from food. So just really paying attention to your nutrient status is really, really important. We need these vitamins for a reason. So, yeah.
I pop a lot of pills. No, I think those are big. Obviously, we for sure are advocates of trying to get as many people to have to look at food as kind of that remedy. But like you said, there can be a place, and there is a place for supplements. That's why they're there. Just don't abuse it and make it what you rely upon.
Yeah, supplements, if you have a bad diet and you're just popping a bunch of vitamins, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. So, it'll cover up the wound, but it's never going to help heal it. You have, diet changes are the foundation of obtaining good health, and supplements are just that. They're supplements to your diet.
There lies my problem. I used to always do that, too. Just put a Band-Aid over my wound.
Oh, heck yeah.
Deep and philosophical here.
Were you hurt as a child? Like, what happened?
That's another podcast.
A couple weeks we're talking about Derek's home life and if everything's cool with him now. I think that was a pretty awesome podcast. Just to listen to it and just really understand kind of the whole spectrum that we covered, because we were all over the place, but I think it was a lot of really good information, and we hit a lot of topics that people seem to have. There are classes that we've had that get really good feedback from, and I think it's things that are on the front of people's minds. And so what we'd like to do is we end our conversations when we wrap everything up. It's like, what is one thing that you want somebody to gain from today's podcast?
Today, just really focus on your food and getting back to, I mean, I feel like we all know what we're supposed to be eating, but just kind of stepping back and looking and like thinking, are these Lucky Charms, am I supposed to be eating this? Or, what am I supposed to be eating? Like, follow your instincts and just start incorporating more real food into your diet. A lot of people, like with the egg issue, you don't need to be scared of eggs. It's a real food. You should be a lot more scared of the Lucky Charms and kind of the Franken foods that are out there, not something that's naturally occurring on the earth. So.
Well said.
Yeah. Of course, he said that as his wife is talking.
I agree with everything.
Yeah. That was great. Guys, what do you got? What did you gain?
I mean, I guess my biggest gain is pretty simple. Eat more real food, real protein meat, and not rely on my 4 scoops of protein a day.
Getting a variety of sources of food as opposed to just consuming one thing, trying to get everything, trying all different sorts of foods.
Yeah, I feel like David should have, we should have, done this podcast together because he lives it with me, and he's just as much of a cheerleader for real food as I am, so.
Oh, you got to play the cheerleader song on this now.
You could have said anything else. Cheerleader, honestly.
That's as much of an advocate.
There we go.
I like cheerleader.
Bad word choice.
I like cheerleader.
Dang it.
I found his Halloween outfit. David is a big cheerleader for food. That was
I set
great.
you up. I'm sorry.
Awesome.
I'll sleep on the couch tonight.
My biggest gain is
I was there too.
This is going south fast. We're gonna raise the Titanic real fast. My biggest gain is David's cheerleaderisms on real food. We're gonna get out of here on that note. But I think when you wow. All right, I'm gonna come back to this. How do people get in touch with you? Because we mentioned the testing you do, and my wife actually went through it, nutrient deficiency testing. I'll let you kind of expand on what it is you do, how people can get in contact with you, your website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so my website is choosefoodwisely.com. That's choose as in CHEWS, like chewing food, choosefoodwisely.com. And so if you go on there, it kind of gives my philosophy and what I offer with a different array of blood testing that I do. So like Ben mentioned, I do micronutrient testing, I do advanced cholesterol panel testing, food sensitivities, just a whole gamut of things that are really, really interesting and kind of more of a functional medicine approach. So I think that would probably be the best way to get in touch with me. And I'm here local in Houston. I'm about a mile away from Avenue, so right around the corner.
Or you can just come by today, although when this podcast comes out, the class will be already done. But she's going to do a lot more stuff with us here at Avenue, so you can also check her out probably with some of the stuff that we're going to be posting. She'll be in a lot of it, I'm sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. Thank you for listening. Please, we are now on iTunes and Stitcher. We're big time now with the 37 of y'all that are listening. So if you could give us a 5-star rating if you like it, and then share it with your friends, your grandmother, get her on iTunes. She'll thank you later. We changed her life. So, share with your friends. Subscribe to it as well. We would like that. And that's really all I have. David, would you like to say anything else today?
I'm done with this topic.
That was awesome. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. Peace.